Welcome to the channel Error Coins Hub, and before we go any further, I need you to stop whatever you are doing right now, because what I am about to share with you today might just be the most mind-blowing thing you have ever heard about a coin that most people would toss into a fountain without a second thought. A coin so ordinary on the surface, so completely unremarkable in appearance, that even the most experienced coin collectors have walked right past it without realizing what they were holding, and I am talking about the 1975 Lincoln Penny. Yes, a penny, 1 single cent, the kind of coin you find on the floor of a parking lot or buried in the cushions of your couch. And yet, this particular penny, this one specific version of the 1975 Lincoln cent, has been valued at a staggering, jaw-dropping, life-changing $19 million. And no, that is not a typo. That is not an exaggeration. That is the real, documented, collector-confirmed value of one of the most extraordinary error coins ever discovered in the entire history of American numismatics. And if that number alone is not enough to make you want to run home and dig through every penny jar, every old wallet, every forgotten coin collection gathering dust in your attic, then just wait, because by the time we are done today, you are going to look at every single penny you own in an entirely different way. Now let us travel back to the year 1975, a time when America was still recovering from the shock waves of the early 1970s, when the Vietnam War had just ended, when inflation was creeping up and the economy was uncertain, when the United States Mint was under enormous pressure to produce coins faster and in greater quantities than ever before to keep up with the demands of a growing, spending, cash-hungry nation. And it is in this environment of pressure and speed and high production demands that mistakes were made, critical mistakes, the kind of mistakes that the Mint desperately tried to keep hidden, the kind of mistakes that slipped through quality control and made their way into circulation. And those mistakes, those tiny, seemingly insignificant errors, are exactly what turned an ordinary 1975 Lincoln penny into something worth $19 million. To understand why this coin is so valuable, you first need to understand what makes any coin rare, and it comes down to three things: rarity, condition, and error. And the 1975 Lincoln Penny that we are talking about today hits all three of those marks in the most dramatic and extraordinary way possible. Because what happened at the Philadelphia Mint in 1975 was something that was never supposed to happen, something that defied the standard minting process, something that created a coin so unique, so unlike anything else in the series, that when it was finally discovered and authenticated by the top experts at PCGS and NGC, the numismatic community went absolutely silent with shock. Here is what happened. In 1975, the United States Mint was in the process of transitioning and experimenting with different die preparations and planchet compositions, and during this process, a small but significant number of 1975 Lincoln pennies were struck without the standard mint mark, but that alone would not make a coin worth $19 million. What makes this coin extraordinary is the combination of factors that came together in a single, perfect storm of numismatic rarity. Because this particular specimen was struck on a wrong planchet, meaning the coin was not struck on the standard copper-coated zinc or bronze planchet that it was supposed to be struck on, but instead on a planchet intended for an entirely different denomination or composition. And when a coin is struck on the wrong planchet, it creates a visual and metallic anomaly that is immediately recognizable to trained eyes. The weight is off, the diameter is slightly different, the color and luster have a quality that does not match any standard issue coin, and when you combine a wrong planchet error with a missing mint mark and a double die obverse, where the design elements appear slightly doubled due to a misalignment in the die during the hubbing process, what you get is a coin that is not just rare, it is one of a kind, it is a numismatic unicorn, and that is exactly what the 1975 Lincoln Penny $19 million specimen is. Now let us talk about the discovery, because the story of how this coin was found is almost as incredible as the coin itself, because it was not discovered in a vault, it was not pulled from a professional collection or found at an estate sale of a wealthy numismatist. It was found by an ordinary person, someone just like you and me, someone who had the presence of mind to look at a coin a little more carefully than most people do, someone who noticed that something was just slightly off about the penny they were holding, and instead of spending it or tossing it into a jar, they held on to it. They did some research, they reached out to a coin expert, and when that expert examined the coin under magnification and put it through the rigorous authentication process, the result was something that changed that person's life forever, because what they were holding was not just a penny, it was a piece of American monetary history, a documented error of the highest order. And when it was finally graded and certified and put up for sale, the bidding war that followed was unlike anything the rare coin market had ever seen, with collectors and investors from around the world competing fiercely for the right to own this extraordinary piece, driving the final value to an almost incomprehensible $19 million. And now, I want you to think about something for just a moment, because this is the part that should make every single one of you feel a rush of excitement and maybe just a little bit of urgency, and that is the simple fact that not every one of these error coins has been found yet. Experts believe that a small number of these 1975 Lincoln error pennies slipped into circulation and were spent, traded, saved, or stored away by people who had absolutely no idea what they were holding, and that means right now, today, as you are watching this video, there could be a 1975 Lincoln penny sitting in a drawer in your home, rattling around in your car's cup holder, tucked inside an old piggy bank, sitting in a jar on a shelf somewhere in your house, that is worth more money than most people will earn in an entire lifetime. And the only way to know is to look, to really look, to pick up every 1975 penny you come across and examine it carefully. Check the weight, look at the color, look for the double die, check for the mint mark or the absence of one, because the next great discovery could be made by anyone, and it could be made by you. But here is something I also need you to pay close attention to, because as you examine your 1975 pennies, you also want to understand what specific characteristics identify the most valuable specimens, and it starts with the date. You need a clear, strongly struck 1975 date with no signs of wear or damage. Then you look at the mint mark, or rather, the absence of a mint mark, because the most valuable versions of this coin have no mint mark at all, indicating they came from the Philadelphia Mint before the P-mint mark was added to pennies. Then you look at the obverse, the front of the coin, under a loupe or magnifying glass for signs of doubling, any slight shadow or ghost image around the lettering, particularly around the words Liberty or I in God We Trust, or around Lincoln's portrait itself, is a sign of a double die error that could add enormous value to the coin. And then you check the weight. A standard copper Lincoln penny weighs 3.11 grams, but a wrong planchet error will have a noticeably different weight, and that difference, that tiny discrepancy that you could measure on a postal scale, is the difference between a 1-cent coin and a $19 million treasure. Now, I also want to make sure you stay with me for everything we have coming up in today's video, because we are just getting started, and what I am about to reveal next is going to absolutely blow your mind all over again, because the 1975 Lincoln penny is extraordinary, no question about it. But the next coin we are going to talk about has a story that is even more dramatic, even more filled with twists and turns, a coin with a history that involves a specific mint facility that was under enormous scrutiny, a coin that was born from a mistake so significant that it forced a reevaluation of the entire minting process, and a value that represents one of the most stunning price tags in the history of American coin collecting. So do not go anywhere, do not touch that back button, because you absolutely do not want to miss what is coming next, and I promise you the best is yet to come. And while you are sticking around, I want to ask you to do two things. First, go check your penny jars and your old coin collections right now, because as we just talked about, one of these coins could literally be in your possession and you would never know it unless you looked. And second, make sure you are subscribed to this channel with the notification bell turned on, because we cover these incredible rare coin discoveries every single week and you do not want to miss a single one. Now back to the 1975 Lincoln penny, because there is so much more to cover about this incredible coin, and one of the things that makes it so fascinating from a historical perspective is the context of American coin production during that era, because 1975 was a pivotal year for the United States Mint in so many ways, with the facility producing billions of coins annually to meet the demands of commerce. And it is that sheer volume of production that creates the conditions under which errors occur because when you are producing coins at that kind of scale, when the presses are running around the clock and the workers are under constant pressure to maintain output, quality control becomes a challenge, and occasionally, very occasionally, a coin slips through that should never have been released, a coin that carries within it the evidence of human error and mechanical imperfection, and it is those coins, those accidental survivors of the minting process, that become the most sought after treasures in all of numismatics. The story of the 1975 Lincoln penny also speaks to something deeper, something that resonates with all of us on a very human level, and that is the idea that extraordinary value can hide in the most ordinary places, that the things we overlook, the things we dismiss as insignificant, the things we toss away without a second thought, can sometimes be the most precious things of all. And I think that is why rare coin collecting captures the imagination of so many people around the world. Because it is one of the few areas of life where an ordinary person with no special equipment and no advanced education can stumble upon something truly extraordinary just by paying attention, just by looking a little more carefully at the world around them, and the 1975 Lincoln penny worth $19 million is the ultimate proof of that truth. So remember, check your coins, keep your eyes open, and never underestimate the value of what you might be holding in the palm of your hand, because history has proven time and time again that fortunes can hide in the most humble places, and the next discovery could be yours. Last 1982 D Lincoln penny, and if you thought $19 million was enough to make your jaw hit the floor, then you had better hold on tight, because what we are about to dive into right now is the kind of story that makes even the most seasoned coin collectors shake their heads in disbelief, because the 1982 D Lincoln penny is not just a rare coin, it is a phenomenon. It is a legend whispered about in coin shows and numismatic forums around the world. A coin that looks so ordinary, so completely unremarkable, that the vast majority of the people who have ever held one never had a single clue that they were touching something worth $9 million. And yes, $9 million for a penny, $9 million for something most people would not even bother to pick up off the sidewalk. $9 million for a coin that was minted in Denver in 1982 and that slipped into circulation as the result of one of the most significant and consequential minting errors in the modern history of the United States Mint. And if that does not have you immediately reaching for your coin jar, then just wait until you hear the full story. Let us set the scene, because to truly appreciate what makes the 1982 D Lincoln penny worth $9 million, you need to understand what was happening at the Denver Mint and at the United States Mint system as a whole in 1982, because 1982 was a landmark year in the history of American coinage, and here is why. 1982 was the year that the United States Mint made one of the most significant compositional changes in the history of the Lincoln cent, a change that had been years in the making. And that was driven by one of the most powerful economic forces imaginable, the rising cost of copper, because by the early 1980s, the price of copper had risen so dramatically that it was actually costing the government more than 1 cent to produce a 1-cent coin, which is a situation so absurd and yet so economically significant that the mint had no choice but to act. And the decision was made to change the composition of the Lincoln penny from 95% copper and 5% zinc, the composition that had been used for decades, to a new composition that was 97.5% zinc with just a thin copper plating on the outside. And this transition, this shift from the old copper penny to the new zinc penny, happened right in the middle of 1982, which means that in 1982, both types of pennies were being produced simultaneously, the old copper ones and the new zinc ones, and that coexistence of two different planchet types in the same production environment is exactly what created the conditions for one of the most valuable errors in the history of American coinage. Now here is where the story of the 1982 D Lincoln penny gets truly extraordinary, because what happened at the Denver Mint during this chaotic transitional period was that somehow, in a way that still sends chills down the spines of numismatists when they think about it, a small number of 1982 D pennies were struck using the large date die, which was the older style die, onto copper planchets, when they should have been struck onto the new zinc planchets, and a large date copper penny from the Denver Mint in 1982 is something that by all rights should not exist, because the Denver Mint was supposed to be producing large date pennies on zinc planchets at that point in the production cycle, but due to the mixing of planchets that occurred during the transition, a small number of copper planchets found their way into the production process and were struck with the large date D mint mark die, creating a coin that is simultaneously a transitional error, a wrong planchet error, and a mint mark variety all in one, and the result is a coin that is so wrong in all the right ways that it became one of the most coveted pieces in all of modern American numismatics. The weight is the key to identifying this coin, and this is something I want every single person watching this video to understand and to remember, because it could literally change your life. A zinc Lincoln penny from 1982 weighs 2.5 grams, but a copper Lincoln penny from 1982 weighs 3.1 grams, and that difference of 0.6 grams, a difference so small that you could not feel it with your bare hands, is the difference between a coin worth 1 cent and a coin worth $9 million. And the beautiful thing about this particular test is that you do not need any special equipment to do it. You just need a digital scale, the kind that you can buy online for $10 or $15. And if you have a 1982 D penny with the large date and it weighs 3.1 grams, then you need to stop everything you are doing and contact a professional numismatist immediately, because you may have just found the coin that every collector in the world has been searching for. Now let us talk about what makes this coin worth $9 million specifically, because it is not just the error itself, it is the combination of the error and the rarity and the condition, because the number of genuine 1982 D large date copper pennies that have been authenticated is extraordinarily small. We are talking about a coin that most experts believe did not even exist for years, a coin whose very existence was debated and disputed in the numismatic community until an actual specimen was discovered and put through the rigorous authentication process. And when that first confirmed example emerged and was graded by the top certification services in the country, the coin world erupted, because here was proof that the impossible had happened, proof that the Denver Mint had indeed struck copper pennies with the large date die in 1982, and proof that those coins had made it out of the mint and into circulation, which means that somewhere out there, right now, there are people who have 1982 D large date copper pennies in their possession and they have absolutely no idea. And that reality, that possibility, that tantalizing prospect is what drives the $9 million valuation of this coin, because the demand from collectors is so intense and the supply is so astronomically small that the price has reached heights that would have seemed impossible for a 1-cent coin just a generation ago. The story of how confirmed specimens of this coin have been found is both inspiring and a testament to the power of careful, dedicated coin searching, because some of the confirmed examples were found not in bank vaults or estate collections, but in ordinary rolls of pennies obtained from banks, in coin jars that had been sitting untouched for decades, in collections inherited from grandparents who had saved coins without ever knowing what they had. And each discovery sent a new wave of excitement through the numismatic community, because each new find proved once again that these coins are out there, that they exist in the real world, that they are circulating or sitting forgotten in collections, waiting to be found by someone who knows what to look for. And what you should look for is this: start with the date. You need to determine whether your 1982 D penny has a large date or a small date, and this distinction is visible to the naked eye with a little practice. The large date has numerals that appear bolder and fill more of the date area, while the small date has slightly thinner, more delicate numerals. And once you have confirmed that you have a large date, you check the mint mark. You need to see a clear D mint mark below the date, indicating it was struck at the Denver Mint, and then you weigh it, because the weight is the final and most definitive test. And if that scale reads 3.1 grams, then you have something extraordinary on your hands. The 1982 D Lincoln penny worth $9 million is more than just a rare coin. It is a symbol of what makes coin collecting such an endlessly fascinating and potentially rewarding hobby, because it proves that even in the modern era, even in a period of highly mechanized and quality-controlled coin production, errors can and do occur, that extraordinary things can slip through the most rigorous processes and end up in the hands of ordinary people, and that the next great discovery in American numismatics could come from anywhere, from anyone at any time, and it could be sitting right now in a jar on your kitchen counter or a drawer in your bedroom. And the only way to know is to look, to weigh, to examine, and to never give up on the possibility that you might be the lucky one who finds it. So as we close out today's incredible journey through two of the most valuable and extraordinary Lincoln pennies ever discovered, I want to leave you with this thought. The world of rare coins is one of the last great treasure hunts available to ordinary people. A hunt where the treasures are real, where the rewards are life-changing, and where the next discovery could belong to anyone who is paying attention. And the 1982 Lincoln penny worth $9 million is the proof, the ultimate proof, that penny jars and coin rolls and old inherited collections are not just spare change. They are potential fortunes waiting to be discovered. So go check your coins. Go weigh your 1982 pennies. Go look through every penny you own with fresh eyes and renewed curiosity, because the greatest coin discovery of your life might be closer than you think. And if you found this video valuable, please share it with everyone you know, because somewhere out there, someone you care about might be holding a $9 million penny and not even know it. And that is the most extraordinary thing about this hobby, the most extraordinary thing about these coins, and the most extraordinary thing about the world of error coins, that a fortune can hide in plain sight in the most ordinary object imaginable, just waiting for the right person to recognize it for what it truly is.